In the land of the pharaohs, a man seeks answers to a mystery 4,000 years old. Here on this barren site, a mission is underway to bring a vanished kingdom back to life, and with it, a pharaoh lost to history. For French archaeologist Vassil Dobrev, it's the dream of coming face to face with the architects of another age.
If we have here untouched Saitic burials, so we could have something untouched under.
Unraveling the tale of a priest and his family, this Egyptologist will try to reconstruct the past.
From now we start to learn about his life.
This is a story of family intrigue, of political conspiracy, and the pursuit of eternal life.
His wife, she is priestess of Hathor.
Following the few clues left to us by the ancients, this man will attempt to fill the gaps of history in his quest for the lost pharaoh. Near Cairo, the most celebrated of Egypt's pyramids stand at Giza on the west bank of the Nile. 13 miles from Giza, the world's first pyramid of the pharaoh Djoser rises from the plateau of Saqqara. On a 2.5-mile stretch further south lie other pyramids. They are part of the site known as South Saqqara. During the period known as the Old Kingdom, other pharaohs were buried here. But 4 of the 6 dynasty rulers have never been found. Between the first king, Teti, and the third, Pepy, a pharaoh named Userkare rose to power under questionable circumstances. To find signs of this missing pharaoh is one scientist's dream.
Alors on va prendre un petit point là. Ici. Et c'est un point de niveau alors. Hein. 8514. Ok. Point de niveau.
Treasures from the past lie hidden at Saqqara, but the only way to find them is with the most modern tools. Two researchers from the French Archaeological Institute of Cairo, archaeologist Vassil Dobrev and topographer Damien Lenné, are mapping the site. A GPS system will capture the signals of 8 satellites. The goal is to document all signs of ancient civilization and perhaps to find new pharaonic tombs. While scouting the site, Vassil pictures what it must have been like here ages ago. 4,200 years ago, the funerary complex of the king, dominated by the pyramid, was at the hub of the economy. Daily life unfolded in the valley bordering the necropolis. The fertile land of Egypt ensured an ample harvest. The entire population served the pharaoh. People from all walks of life contributed to the monarch's well-being. Among them, high dignitaries and their servants, who accessed the mortuary temple and the pyramid via a covered causeway. Today, these monuments are in ruins, but what remains is a kind of roadway to the past. Archaeologists have noticed that pharaohs built their pyramids on the plateau of Saqqara in precise geographic order. All the tombs are aligned chronologically from the first to the last king of a given dynasty. For 15 years, Vassil has been dreaming about digging here. He thinks this site is large enough to contain the foundation of a pyramid that had never been finished. And if his hunch is correct, it would belong to the mysterious Userkare, the second pharaoh of the 6th dynasty. This simple hypothesis sparks his imagination. The pharaoh's architects check to see that this site is favorable for the construction of the royal tomb. They want to make sure that the monument fits along the axis formed by the other pyramids. Pharaoh Userkare arrives from Memphis, the capital of ancient Egypt, with his consort and royal entourage. He is here to oversee the placement of his future pyramid. The building of this monument will be the single most important accomplishment of his reign. For Userkare, the pyramid is the only road to eternal life. His consort will assist him in his bid for eternity. Transformed into the goddess Seshat, she will immortalize the ceremony inaugurating the construction of the royal tomb. As he inhales her divine breath, the pharaoh taps her everlasting power. "2,200 years later, the site of Tabet el-Gesh may prove to be fertile grounds for an archaeological dig. Vassil decides to begin excavating some 10 feet below the site's highest point. He will dig layer by layer, moving deeper into history. This method seems to work. A few weeks later, the earth yields its first important finds. Less than 2 feet below the surface, ancient remains begin to emerge from the sand. Skeletons and a wooden sarcophagus. Near the sarcophagus of an adult, the archaeologists find a child's coffin.
Here we see the nose.
The sarcophagi are intact and have not been opened since their burial.
It looks like a woman.
It's a woman and her child. Only a single exquisitely preserved offering basket is found next to the coffins. The archaeologists prepare to move the sarcophagi to a safer place. But at the sight, excitement gives way to a more disquieting mood.
This is a very good sign because these sarcophagus date from the Saitic period, and we know from Saqqara that generally the Saitic burials of important persons are immediately over the Old Kingdom necropolis. So if you have here untouched Saitic burials, so we could have something untouched under.
The first discoveries spur Vassil to travel further back in time. These mud brick structures were built some 2,500 years ago. The sarcophagi date from the same epoch, the late period. Other graves begin to appear. When one of them is opened, wisps of mold float away from the mummy's bandages. Across the dig site, archaeologists continue to unearth skeletons and mummies. The wealth of remains confirms the extent of this late-period necropolis. A fresh clue emerges from amidst the sand and stone, shards of pottery. From their shape and composition, Laurent Bavet dates these funerary vessels to the Old Kingdom.
It is a big problem to resolve. Huh? Because this comes together, it's good.
After several days of work, a rectangular structure 20 by 30 feet emerges from the earth. It looks like a funerary pit at another site at Saqqara. This one, from the late period, was dug in the temple of Unas, one of the Old Kingdom pharaohs. Not far from his pyramid is a shaft that descends to a staggering depth of nearly 100 feet. This pit leads to the tomb of somebody important. Because sites like this are sacred, dignitaries of the late period were often buried alongside their ancestors from the Old Kingdom. At Tabet al-Gesh, Vassil now hopes to find tombs from the Old Kingdom.
ولا لا هنا تحت الطفلة. نظيفة ما فيش زلط. But when there is pure sand, there is something below. It's clear.
A pit cut into the rock intrigues the archaeologists.
There is something here.
Vassil holds his breath. His intuition has proved to be correct. He's in the right place.
Limestone wall. I can read something here. It's written the great god. It's something to do with the great god. He was a privileged person close to the great god. Now we really have to go down to see if there is something. It's really untouched. It looks exactly as it was built. This is his head, and here we have his name. Just here. We shouldn't touch the stones too much. Now I can read his name. It's pharaoh. For the moment, I see one of his titles. Semerwati, close friend of the king.
Who was Pharaoh? He may have served more than one pharaoh. This is what Vassil hopes to find out. Little by little, a limestone wall emerges before his eyes. It's full of hieroglyphs which Vassil begins to decipher. Nary men nefer. This is King Pepy from the end of the Old Kingdom. Pharaoh was clearly a priest who performed ceremonies and rites in Pepy's mortuary temple. Today, two new figures from the distant past emerge from history after more than 4 millennia. Pharaoh and his consort.
From now we start to learn about his life. So for the moment, what we know is that he is a priest of Pepy I, who is actually the third king of the 6th dynasty. Pepy I is just behind. So he has served him in the temple there. On the other side, I will expect to have the title with some other king, if he served 2 kings or 3 kings. So this will be now interesting to find out.
Might the pharaoh Userkare be one of them? Vassil has just discovered a rock tomb of a dignitary and his consort from the end of the Old Kingdom. To protect his discoveries from the ravages of sand and thieves, Vassil seals the tomb with a metal cover. This, half a mile further south, is all that remains of the pyramid built by the pharaoh Pepy I. It was his vehicle for reaching the heavens. To live eternally, he had to eat and drink. Even after his death, his subjects brought offerings to his temple adjoining the pyramid. It was like a factory, constantly generating energy for the pharaoh. Vassil imagines that Pepy's temple may have looked like this. enduring and perfect. This is the name of the king's funerary complex. The pyramid and its temple, the place where the priests that serve Pepy officiate. Offerings from all across Egypt arrive for the pharaoh Pepy. Under the supervision of scribes, everything is accounted for on papyrus and deposited in the temple archives. How Nefer performs the purification rituals. Now he is ready to enter the most sacred space of the temple. Behind this door is the hall of the 5 chapels of the pharaoh. He unveils the central statue of Pepy depicted as Osiris. In his role as lector priest, keeper of the ceremonial rituals, how Nefer invokes the names of the pharaoh. May he live forever and always.
And was Jid Snip Jid.
Meanwhile, the adjoining rooms and corridors of the temple hum with activity. It's time to prepare the offerings for the king. In yet another sanctuary of the temple, how Nefer's wife Huti worships Hathor, the goddess of peace and love. Back at Tabet el-Gesh, the dig continues. The goal, to locate the entrance to the tomb. Vassil has noticed that a few selected stones from the doorway of Hau-Nefer's tomb are missing. They appear to have been removed. It's possible that these missing stones contained the cartouche of the pharaoh Userkare.
ده زي مكفول ده ها زي مكفول.
Bernard Mathieu, director of the French Archaeological Institute of Cairo, comes to record and study the tomb's hieroglyphs.
Here there is another name. It's here, Hoti. He had maybe 2 wives. But here it's not written his wife. It's a concubine. Look, somebody removed her eyes.
By scratching out her eyes, nose, and mouth, someone has deprived this woman of resurrection in the afterlife. Vassil has found the tomb of a priest and his consort, and now a second woman. But this is not the only surprise awaiting him. In the middle of the limestone facade, a new passageway has just come to light.
There is a mild brick vault, but completely collapsed.
Intrigued by the tomb's strange layout, Vassil removes sand from around the fresco. Little by little, the image of a child appears, facing Haou Nefer. It's a boy.
Ah, ici, il y a une petite fille. C'est très bien conservé. Ah, ben voilà.
Between the priest and his wife Hutti, the figure of a girl emerges. It's their eldest daughter, the beauty. Strangely, her head has been rubbed out.
Et derrière, il y a encore la place pour quelqu'un? Ah? Ah?
Behind the couple, there's another child. It's a boy. His name is Haou, like his father. Outside the tomb, the dig goes on. Vassil now has proof of the long-awaited necropolis. The archaeologists and workers have just unearthed several rock tombs, suggesting that more could lie hidden at Tabet el-Gesh. At the time of the Old Kingdom, pyramids, like those at Giza, were surrounded by tombs of dignitaries, priests, scribes, architects, honored to be near the pharaoh. This could be the case at Tabet el-Gesh. It's possible that a bigger monument stood next to these tombs, and that Userkare chose this site to build his pyramid. Vassil is perplexed, but it's still too early for answers. He hopes the priest's tomb will lead him to the pharaoh. It was customary at the time for dignitaries to oversee the construction of their own tombs. In so doing, they ensured the quality of the workmanship on sculptures and paintings. Today, Haou checks to see that all of his priestly functions and those of his consort are accurately immortalized in stone.
Here we see that he knows the secrets of the king. For the moment, this is the family, the official family here. This is with his wife Hutti. The other, we don't know, and she had another name. She is something else. We don't know.
Vassil takes measures to protect the tombs. A newly constructed wall prevents access to the so-called Street of Tombs, which has been sealed with metal covers.
Il y a un Ek. Ça, je vois un Ek ici. Mais c'est Khatek, c'est clair, c'est Khatek. Alors Khatek, c'est peut-être sa fille. Et il est là avec sa fille. Mais oui.
Vassil and Bernard notice that the name of one of Haou Nefer's daughters is identical to the name of the woman by his side on the door. She was definitely not a concubine. What really happened here 4,200 years ago? The priestess of Hathor, Huti, was probably assisted by her daughter in the sanctuary. The wall suggests that Hau-Nefer's oldest daughter may have replaced her mother as priestess of Hathor. Her father, Hau, would have invested her with this power. In Pepy's temple, the son had assisted his father, and it is he who would have officiated at Hau's death. The frescoes have also revealed that there were 13 children. Why was the daughter's face erased? The culprit was probably her older brother. With the mother now gone, perhaps his sister had assumed too important a role in the family, maybe the role of Hau-Nefer's consort, and the brother couldn't accept it. These walls have revealed many unexpected details to Vassil, insight into family intrigues of the priest, but not a single trace of the lost pharaoh. Inside Hau-Nefer's tomb, the vaulted room is now completely cleared. A funerary pit emerges at its far end. It should lead to the priest's burial chamber and perhaps reveal his link to the lost pharaoh. It is impressive in size and might be several stories deep. But only 3 feet down, a small cavity appears to the west.
For the moment I see nothing. It's plenty with sand.
So I was thinking that the pit will go very deep. It can still go deeply, but very quickly after 1 meter 20, there is a small passage here on the west wall. So we shall see what it is. Huh? It's still a surprise. Huh? It could be, if the pit is not very deep, it could be the passage for the funerary chamber. It is a possibility always. But we shall see. I don't know. I'm surprised.
Vassil might just have found the entrance to Pharaoh's burial chamber. But as night falls, he must call it quits and lock down the tomb until morning. Even in the desert, news travels fast. To protect what lies below, Vassil has decided to reinforce security. Today, the workers arrive earlier than usual. This is a day unlike any other. It is the day that the burial chamber will be opened. If all goes well, Vassil is only hours away from his long-awaited encounter with Pharaoh. He hopes the priest will help him solve the mystery of the lost pharaoh. The room they discovered the day before is not the passage to the burial chamber. Vassil and Bernard think it was a workroom used during the tomb's construction. In only a few hours, Vassil has progressed another 15 feet. The pit descends deeper and deeper into the earth.
It becomes narrow at the pit now, and here on the north side we have again something like this, a passage or a small room, maneuvering room or something like this, and we don't enter for the moment there, but the pit really becomes smaller now. I hope maybe soon it will be the end. Okay, דלקתי כדי כווייס, סיבו דאגו דלקתי, שאנחנו רוצים תבוא. I think soon we shall arrive to the end. I hope. Okay, but ماشي دلوقتي. يا ريس جاي. تعال كده.
Relying on intuition, Vassil tries to get an idea of what happened here ages ago. Like all dignitaries, the priest Pharaoh was buried with offerings and funerary objects. Some were inscribed with the names of the dead and reveal their function in the courts of the pharaohs they served. In the tomb, a priest prepares statuettes of the dead to be placed in the burial chamber. Pharaoh's son checks the offerings to see that nothing is amiss for the ceremony. Back in the pit, Vassil is now some 20 feet below the surface.
It sounds empty behind. It's strange, this. It's really strange. Maybe there is a filling here. Maybe this is a filling. I cannot see very well with this light.
He can't possibly be far from the burial chamber. The funeral procession has just reached the passageway that leads to the tomb. How Nefer will at last occupy his final resting place? At the bottom of this pit, after several hours of digging, Vassil has just reached the burial chamber, some 25 feet underground.
It's a big room. Oh, we got bones here.
The bones are scattered, the wooden coffin completely decomposed, and not a single funerary object remains. It's a terrible disappointment.
So maybe this is the mummy or the skeleton of Pharaoh Nefer. Apparently it was moved, so we shall see if it was moved or something fall from the floor, from the ceiling. We still have at least 1 meter, 1.50 to go down here to get a better access to this room that has approximately maybe 5 meters to 2 meters. It is vaulted. It is cut in the rock as an vaulted way.
It looks like Pharaoh Nefer's tomb was disturbed at the end of the Old Kingdom, perhaps for political reasons. He may have been involved in conspiracies that led to the demise of the first 6th dynasty pharaohs, Teti, Userkari, and Pepy. The dig must continue. In the tomb, other funerary pits have been cleared, some almost 20 feet deep, but with the same disappointing results. To pursue his search for the missing king, Vassil opens a neighboring tomb. There are still surprises in store. New discoveries come to light. Several statuettes that belong to the same dignitary, the owner of the tomb. He is a lector priest and turns out to be Pharaoh Nefer's father-in-law.
On the back we have his name, Khnum-Hotep.
A generation before Hau-Nefer. Could Nuhotep have served the pharaoh Teti or even Userkare? Fragments of engraving scattered inside the tomb come from the lintel of the door. These beautiful stones were left here by men who were clearly on a mission. They didn't come to steal the stones, just to remove whatever was written on some of them.
So what is missing here are the door jambs, here and here, because we have the lintel completely preserved in pieces. So apparently somebody had removed especially these door jambs here and here, and the lintel fell and was broken in 5 pieces. We found them. Here we have similar problem. It's missing all this wall. When they constructed this wall, these were courses, one stone. Then somebody came and cut and removed what is here on this wall. Why? Here we have the beginning of what was written here. It is written, I am. This is the beginning of what we call autobiography. So he was just describing what he was doing, for whom he was doing this and this, whom he was serving. Maybe there was the name of a king. So here, Khalid, can you...
Today, Dr. Zahi Hawass, Secretary General of the Supreme Council of Antiquities, comes to see the new finds at Tabet el-Gesh. He too finds it somewhat peculiar that only selected stones are missing.
It's quite weak, so we don't touch it for the moment.
The first part of Dynasty 6 is not clear to us, and we need really more to understand. We did not find the pyramid complex of a king of this dynasty. We have not really known a lot about the family, and therefore we depend completely on the study of the tombs.
The missing texts may have been removed on purpose to banish Userkare from the historical record. He had succeeded the pharaoh Teti under compromising circumstances.
The king Teti was killed by his bodyguards. So there was a kind of a conspiration against the king Teti. And then came the king Userkare for a short time, maybe 1, 2 or 3 years. So during that period, maybe these people served this king because it was the king. But then when Pepy came on power, maybe at that time, everybody that served the king was removed. Maybe their biographies, what was written about this king was removed, because he was maybe considered as somebody that took the power by force.
After the death of Userkare, Pepy came to power, and work on his pyramid began. Hau-Nefer was able to adapt to these new circumstances. He became the chief of the priests at Pepy's temple. Although he had witnessed disturbing events, he was now promoted to a more important position.
The missing information shows that there was information that was so important and maybe compromising for the next rule.
The dig at Tabet el-Gesh has confirmed the existence of one part of the lost City of the Dead from the Old Kingdom. The destruction of selective hieroglyphics texts in the tombs of Hau-Nefer and his father-in-law proves that someone intended to eliminate all signs of the pharaoh Userkare. Vassil vows to continue his quest to prove that this is in fact a royal necropolis. His hope is that this new site will yield dozens, even hundreds of tombs of those dignitaries who once served the Egyptian king. And if luck prevails, there will arise through these shifting sands the tomb of the lost pharaoh.